Muay Thai is one of the best striking systems in the entire world. Traditionally, you train and compete in the boxing glove, but recently, thanks to organizations like Cage Muay Thai and of course One Championship, we've seen the rise of MMA glove style Muay Thai. And that got me thinking, which way is better? Muay Thai in the boxing glove or Muay Thai in MMA gloves? Today, we settle the debate. So the origin of the boxing glove is pretty straightforward. Western boxing was originally done bare knuckle, hence why we call it bare knuckle boxing, but there eventually came a demand to start protecting the fighter's main tools, i.e. their hands. So they developed what was essentially just leather gloves to protect your hands from undue cuts. But once that happened, there became a demand for more entertaining fights. So they started adding padding to the gloves, and eventually we ended up with this design. This style of boxing glove is really less shield and a lot more battering ram. All of my fingers and joints are casted together in a pretty solid structure, which means I can punch with reckless abandon pretty much any way I want, and be guaranteed I'm not gonna get hurt too bad. Case in point, I don't think I had a closed fist with any of those strikes, but because this glove is a solid design from the knuckles down to the wrist, I'm pretty protected. So what does it have to do with Muay Thai? Well, across the sea, they were also doing bare knuckle fighting, but their fighters were allowed to wrap and bandage their hands. They were essentially doing the same thing the boxing glove is doing, only using wraps to create the cast rather than a solid frame. So when Muay Thai wanted to start expanding more globally, it became easy to change from the wraps to the boxing glove that Western boxing is already famous for. Now, a second ago, I said the gloves function more like a weapon, and that's true in boxing. When my only weapons are my hands, I need these to be as powerful as humanly possible. And my shield is gonna be, yes, a combination of my hands, but also making sure I'm moving my head and getting away and under my opponents. But in Muay Thai, yes, our hands are a weapon, but so are our legs, so are our elbows, and so are our knees. And because we have so many other weapons available to us, I can't rely on the same forms of defense as I could in boxing. Because if I get really head movement heavy and slip too low, I'm probably gonna eat a kick. If I get into the Philly shell position, I'm probably gonna get kicked in the leg, so on and so forth. So Muay Thai uses the glove like a weapon and like a shield. Because yes, I can get my head offline and move away from my strikes, but I can also take this hand and spear my opponent away from me with what we call the long guard. Essentially what I'm doing is taking my hand and wedging it between me and my opponent. Now, I can get him off center to follow up for a cross and a kick, or as he comes in, I can push him away. There's a lot of options for us. Let's talk about the different philosophy between boxing and Muay Thai. And yes, I promise we'll get to gloves in a minute. I just have to explain this first. Boxing generally is a lot less about hitting one shot at a time and a lot more about death by 1,000 cuts. You'll see fights where the guy peppers in a lot of jabs, maybe hits a cross or two, fakes a lot. There's a lot of shots being thrown, a lot of shots missing. Muay Thai, by contrast, is a lot more about standing right in front of your opponent and seeing how they're gonna react to one, maybe two shots at a time. If they fall, great, work is done, let's go home. If they're not, you'll probably follow up with a clinch and unleash those knees and elbows. Now, it could be tempting to say that if boxing is death by 1,000 cuts, Muay Thai is raw power, and there's some truth to that. But really, it's about testing your grit. It's about saying, how do you handle the fire of being kicked in the ribs full force? It's a lot more about testing someone's willpower than it is about just trying to break them with one power shot. However, Muay Thai in general tends to focus on 1, 2, maybe 4 strikes at a time. That's important as we finally start talking about gloves. Now this is your pretty standard MMA style glove. It has an open palm with a detached but protected thumb, padding over the top, and individualized fingers. This style of glove was designed to maximize grappling ability in MMA. Meaning, jiu-jitsu players would still be able to grab onto, pull you down, wrench your arms, whatever they want to do, while also having a modicum of protection when they want to throw strikes. This style of glove looks pretty similar to the original boxing glove. It's pretty form-fitting without offering too much protection. When we're talking about striking gloves like this, not a lot changes. Your jab is still your jab, cross is still a cross, hook is still a hook. What does change, however, is when I can throw these strikes. Because now, I can't just break through a solid guard with unloaded strikes. I have to find the right angle before I can throw my strike. I can sneak in from new angles with these strikes. It's a much smaller weapon for a much more civilized age. Your defense changes as well. Because when you're wearing the big padded boxing gloves, you can shell up right here and be protected from most strikes. The area right here is going to be more or less covered by the boxing glove. So this high guard really should be more like this. Or, as you'll see in styles like Muay Thai, something like this. That being said, I do love catching strikes on my elbows and forearms, using this to break my opponent's weak little baby knuckle. I talk about it in this video here, or here, still not totally sure on screen direction. Give it a watch, subscribe, enjoy the channel. Now, I personally am never gonna advocate for MMA glove boxing. I think boxing is at its peak in a full-size glove or bare knuckle. But when it comes to Muay Thai, like I said, yes, we have our punches, but we also have our elbows, and of course we have our clinch, which we'll talk about in a minute. As Muay Thai is in the way I described it, I think MMA gloves are kind of a hindrance. Because if you're trying to stand in front of your opponent and trade 1 or 2 shots at a time, you probably won't land them where you want to land them with enough force to get the results you want. The clinch might be made nominally easier, but we'll talk about that in a minute, like I said, but the striking itself is probably going to be worse if you stick to that same game plan. Now, there are some things that are made easier by the MMA glove. Going back to the long guard, it's a lot better to shove an open palm into your opponent's face when you can actually open your palm. And if you're trying to throw elbows, if you don't have to worry about a giant boxing glove being in your way, you can throw these a lot quicker and a lot more succession because there's a lot less options for your opponent to protect himself. Now, when it comes to the clinch, Muay Thai has developed a very fascinating way of grappling an opponent that doesn't really exist in other martial arts styles. In other styles, if I get something like a double plum, yeah, I might try to land a few strikes, but for the most part, I'm gonna try to snap my opponent to the ground. Muay Thai's grappling was developed to maximize their ability to land knees and elbows. So being able to use your fingers doesn't change much. So for Muay Thai as it is right now, or I should probably say Muay Thai as it has been for the last few decades, the MMA glove kind of makes things worse. This style of standing in front of your opponent and picking 1 or 2 shots, it can work. It's just not working as well as it used to. Now, I'm not saying Muay Thai needs to start throwing long Dutch style combos to be effective. Instead, I think we should take what's worked for other martial arts and incorporate it with the spirit of Muay Thai. So if you're going to be doing Muay Thai in open finger gloves, you should take from boxing a little bit of head movement, a lot of footwork, and use the MMA glove to figure out what are the actual angles I need for my strikes. Since I can't just stand here and trade, I need to find out how can I find where my opponent is and put him where I want to be. Now, to bring this all home, the reason that I love the MMA glove is because its minimalist design means you have to know how to punch properly. When I was doing the boxing glove punching earlier, I was telling you guys my fist wasn't always closed, my wrist wasn't always aligned. That mistake is not forgiven in MMA gloves. If I punch with a bent wrist, I'm gonna know right away. If my fist isn't closed, my opponent's gonna know right away. If we wanna see cleaner, more precise striking, MMA gloves enforce that immediately. But if you're any kind of fan of this channel, you know I love that stupid ass weirdo bullshit striking. So yes, a rear hook is a great strike. But you know what else is a great strike? An upward hammer fist like this. And you know what else is cool? You can throw this hook here, come back with a rising crane strike. These are all things that are somewhat allowed in Muay Thai, but I think should be very allowed once we start striking with open palm gloves. Now this makes Muay Thai look a lot less like boxing and a lot less like how we know Muay Thai now, but makes it look a lot more like its parent styles in Muay Thai, Muay Badan, and all the other native styles of Thailand. All the different things you see in what we could call karate actually exist in Muay Thai's parent styles. They just got taken out because of the advent of the boxing glove. So is the MMA glove the future of Muay Thai? Should all competitions be done with the open palm glove? No, I don't think so. I think traditional boxing glove Muay Thai is incredible and should always be an option for people. But I think the new cage style Muay Thai also has a lot to offer, and we've just barely scratched the surface. I also think if you're gonna train one, you should train both, because the boxing glove does offer more protection than this thing does. So if you're gonna be going hard on the heavy bag or on the pads, I would protect yourself with the boxing glove. But this thing reinforces good striking technique, so if you need to work on that, maybe use the MMA glove. And of course, if you're competing in cage Muay Thai, you should probably use this glove anyway. But the most important thing is that you make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking to support the channel, there's a bunch of affiliate links down there in the description. Once again, you guys, this has been Rob with the Freestyle Martial Artist. I want to thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for the hard work yet to be done. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.